All right, what up, everybody? Welcome to a special executive decisions, aka NFL No Cap edition. NFL No Cap Fantasy Executive Mondays recap Sunday just took place in the NFL season. Basically, give you my thoughts, my opinions. One thing I tell you about me: very little biases. If I see it, I got to say it. So that's why we call it NFL No Cap, because you're getting the truth straight from the fantasy executive. Now, I want to shout out to Underdog Fantasy. They're our sponsor. If you have not gotten them Underdog Fantasy yet, hit that link in the description section. I won $35 over there yesterday. I cashed out immediately. You can do the same thing this upcoming week. Basketball, football, baseball, whatever. They got you covered. So NFL No Cap. Let's get ready to hop into it. And I want to start off talking about three defenses that were very impressive in week one of the NFL season. And let's start in MetLife Stadium. The Dallas Cowboys embarrassed the New York Giants yet again. Daniel Jones sacked 7 times. Giants turned the ball over 3 times. Kick, get blocked. All kind of stupid shit happened last night at the Meadowlands as the New York Giants got destroyed 40-0 by the Dallas Cowboys. That Cowboys defense does look dominant. They do get after the pass rusher. Defensive line strong. They got multiple defensive linemen that they can rotate in and out of the game, give you a hard time. But for the most part, the New York Giants were terrible. They only averaged 2.6 yards a play last night. Now, you talk about elite talent on the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley. He didn't get nothing done against the Dallas Cowboy defense last night. Are we really sure that Saquon Barkley is going to remain an elite talent? Now, listen, I think the Giants do bounce back. They fans should still be optimistic. But what you see about the New York Giants is they cannot compete with the elite teams in the NFC. Their last 2 games, the playoff game last year versus the Eagles, the opener this year versus the Cowboys, they got their ass kicked. So the Giants are like an NFC South team or like an NFC North team. They can compete with those teams, but when it comes to the teams at the top of the NFC East, they're going to have a hard time doing so. Now, as far as my favorite player, I kid, you know who I'm talking about, Dak Prescott, the dude I criticize more than any other player. I'm not going to give him too hard of a time. He didn't turn the ball over, but he was not fantastic. Now, next week, when they got Jet defense comes down to Big D, that's when we're going to see Dak Prescott have to make some plays, and we'll see if the turnovers start happening after that. But as far as yesterday goes, Pollard looked good. Dak did his thing. Cowboys get an easy victory over a team that they are superior to, and we've seen that a number of different times. Now, San Francisco 49ers defense, legit yesterday as well. They were fantastic. Sacked Kenny Pickett 5 times, held the Steelers to 41 yards rushing. So listen, San Francisco 49ers, Bosa, that whole crew, extremely talented on defense. They still coming at you. Brock Purdy was very good. You know what I'm saying? He looked like he picked off right where he left up prior to getting hurt in the NFC championship game last year. Listen, solid San Francisco 49ers, one of the better teams in the NFC. You already know that. Really disgusted by the play of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was on Pittsburgh heavy. I think I gave too much credit to Tomlin and the crew, the way they finished last season and how I thought they would start this season. I'm not saying it's wrong to be optimistic about the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, but let's just pump the brakes a little bit. I think there's still a lot of growing pains is going to be in that franchise and that organization right now. I trust Tomlin to get it together, and they'll be better. They'll be a contender throughout the course of the season. But when elite talent comes into town, it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers could be in trouble. They're going to have to do some improvement throughout the course of the season. But I think Kenny Pickett, Mike Tomlin, and the Steelers will get there. The Cleveland Brown defense was also legit yesterday. They held Burrow to 82 yards passing, right? 2.26 yards per completion. That's horrific. That's lower than Zach Wilson. This is Joe Burrow we're talking about. Cincinnati was 2 of 5 on third down. The Browns ran 18 more plays than the Cincinnati Bengals did yesterday. Joe Burrow in his career 1-5 versus the Cleveland Browns. They got his number. That defense, they get after him, they harass him, they get in his face, and it didn't look good at all yesterday. The Browns defense is legit. Browns defense, Myles Garrett and that crew, they get that pass rush rolling. That secondary is pretty straight. They're going to be the leaders of that Cleveland team, and they can give people a hard time. Cleveland's a team that can mix it up with those good teams in the AFC North. When they go out to the division, they struggle a little bit. But when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, all right, what do we have here? What are we going to do with DeSean Watson? To be fair, they got the win. He didn't really play a bad game, but he wasn't great. You know what I'm saying? I'm still waiting to see that electric playmaking DeSean Watson that we saw in Houston. Is he still that guy? Is that guy still in there? A lot of people think it still is there. I want to start to see it, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like Bigfoot. It's one thing to talk about it, but ain't nobody never seen it. I want to see that come to fruition with Deshaun Watson this season. Like, we can't, the rust excuse is not going to work no more. It's time for the rubber to start meeting the road, and I haven't been overly impressed yet with Watson's stay with the Cleveland Browns. Let's go to Baltimore, staying at AFC North. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens get the win. Obviously, you get to the J.K. Dobbins situation, but, you know, that Baltimore offense, it looked like the same Baltimore offense as last year. Now, Zay Flowers was impressive. He got the ball in space. He was getting things done. You see what he can be able to do. Mark Andrews did not play. So, you know, obviously that's a comfort. That's a favorite target. Now, it's still getting used and familiar with the offense, right? So it's still going to take a little time, but I need this offense to look like a Todd Monken offense and not like the same offense it has under Greg Roman for the past couple of years. Lamar was decent. Wasn't a good fantasy day for Lamar. We expect better from the Baltimore Ravens, but the truth of the matter is this. As long as the number one statistic is a W in the win column, the Baltimore Ravens really don't care. And that's why they're such a good team. They're willing to go in as a whole of the group and not just look at one specific player. So, but I do want to see Lamar and that offense start to step up a little bit more. The J.K. Dobbins situation is very unfortunate. It's sad. I can imagine the heartbreak that young man is going through right now. Obviously, I immediately thought about it for fantasy purposes because I'm heavily invested in Dobbins and two teams because the talent is just that real. But obviously, he feels much worse today than I do about losing him on my fantasy team. Like, he just lost another season. And, you know, this young man is a very good, very talented player. He just can't happen to stay off the scrap heap with the injuries. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to J.K. Dobbins. Best wishes to him. I hope he gets better. And I listen, just, you know, Kobe keeps his head doing what I'm sure is a very difficult time. You know what I'm saying? His teammates as well. Let's get over to the Minnesota Vikings, the frauds that are the Minnesota Vikings. I told y'all coming into this season that the Vikings were like due for regression. All of those one-score wins they had last year was going to turn around and start to bite them. And you saw that happen yesterday. Like last year, the Vikings would have found a way to pull that game out. This year, the Vikings did what the Vikings do. They went ahead and lost that game. And I think you're going to see a lot of that from the Vikings this year because if you can't beat Tampa at home in week 1, I think you're going to struggle this season. So I don't want to say like it's time to push the panic button. It's only week 1. But coming into the season, I felt as if that the Vikings were going to be a fraudulent team based on people judging them for what they did last year. And it looks like it started that way. So I'm not in on the Vikings. And I'm not in on the Buccaneers either. But the Vikings are not the Vikings are not as good as people think they are. Speaking of not as good as people think they are, Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. If you have a Justin Fields MVP ticket, joke's on you, Jack. This kid still turned the ball over. Loses the game for them because he turns the ball over. So now you can't say, oh, well, he don't got weapons. He don't got this. He don't got that. He's an excellent fantasy quarterback. Give you those good rushing yards. Played a decent game. But when it's time to win the game, the 2 turnovers end up costing the team the game. Now, Jordan Love, on the other hand, got it done. 3 touchdown passes yesterday. He looked like the player that I thought that Jordan Love would look like. I was in on Jordan Love coming into the season. Need a quarterback off the waiver wire. You played quarterback chicken too long. You got a stiff like Daniel Jones. Go ahead and grab Jordan Love. I think he's going to be a player this season. Like the way Aaron Jones looked at well. Listen, it's only 1 week, but I had that Green Bay Packers to win the NFC North division. I'm feeling that right now because they're going to be a competitor. They're going to be a player. As far as the Bears go, if Fields, like y'all got me saying calling him Hurts because y'all keep saying he going to take a Hurts step. He ain't taking no Hurts step. He got to keep giving the ball to the other team. That's what causes him to lose the game. They're not going to tolerate that too much longer, especially if you drop another 3-4 win record with cats like Caleb Williams, Drake May sitting out there. You think it won't happen? I'm going to continue to give Justin Fields some time, but he's ready to turn the corner. He's an excellent fantasy quarterback. He make good plays running the football, but when it comes time to putting rubber to the road and winning the game, we have not seen him do that successfully yet, and that looked a lot like how it looked like last season, so hopefully he will get better. Now, I did give a Underdog Fantasy draft a run yesterday, full disclosure. played toward close to top, trying to take home $5,000 in that one. I had the stack with Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence. Had Aaron Jones on the team. Just missed Etienne. Ended up with DJ Chalk. Kind of messed it up after that. And then obviously not having Tyreek Hill, who I'll talk about in a little bit, help or didn't hurt as well. But if you want to get down with Underdog Fantasy, hit the link in the description section. It's a good way to add some wagertainment to your Sunday afternoons. And then when we get back to NBA season, we'll be doing it every night of the week. So get in there with that. Matter of fact, I'm going to hit up my man Dan Titus from Yahoo and see if we can start doing some best ball NBA drafts coming up here in a couple weeks once we get rolling into the NFL season. Now, where was we at? Let me get back to NFL No Cap. Talked about the Vikings being the fraud. I talked about Justin Fields. Let's go to Bryce Young, another young quarterback. Bryce Young didn't get it done yesterday. Carolina loses to their division rival, the Atlanta Falcons. Bryce Young, Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick in the draft. He threw a pair of terrible interceptions yesterday, full disclosure. And I'm a Bryce Young supporter and guy. The first time he did it, I was like, man, that's a bad interception. Then a couple drives later, he threw the same exact interception on the same exact route. You got to do better than that, son. Like, I understand it's your first game, but you can't throw the same bad interception a few drives later. That's a lack of focus and concentration right there. Bryce is going to have to improve that. Now, on the other side, the rookie Bijan Robinson, he did well. He showed he showed those moves, showed what he can do in the passing game. He's going to be an excellent fantasy asset. He wasn't dynamic yesterday, but we like what we see early returns for Bijan Robinson. Good to see Tyler Algier still in the mix as well. Nothing really to gain from the NFC South from this game right here. That's going to be a back and forth division all year long, but Atlanta shot themselves in the foot with those turnovers because when you look at the numbers, Carolina shot themselves in the foot because when you look at the numbers, they played a better game statistically than the Atlanta Falcons did. But the only stats that count is the one that go in the win and loss column. Young quarterback Anthony Richardson, was very impressed with him yesterday. Ran the football well, 40 yards and a touchdown. Threw the football well. I cashed my Underdog Fantasy Anthony Richardson prop. They had him at 195 passing yards. Cashed that with a breeze, so that was no problem right there. So like what I saw from Richardson, if you got him in fantasy, he's going to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback. He's a starter in the 12-team fantasy league every week. Now, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm laughing because I know a couple of cats was getting on me in the comment section talking about Fate and Calvin Ridley this week. That was a mistake. I was wrong, and you guys were right. Yo, when the red zone went to that game, and I saw Calvin Ridley running, I thought it was like the Fox robot. Like he runs like an AI generated character. Like that guy gets up and put it down. He's a phenomenal athlete in such good shape, really looking fresh with that year off. He's going to start to put up some Tyreek Hill type numbers. I'll get to Tyreek in a second. So shout out to Calvin Ridley and everybody that hit on Calvin Ridley over the past couple of days. I don't have that son of a gun in no drafts, but my goodness, he run like the damn robot that run across the screen. That's crazy. He's going to be hard to handle this season. So shout out to Calvin Ridley. Jimmy G, decent, got to win. Those games that the Raiders was losing with Derek Carr last year, they're going to win those games with Jimmy G this year. You know how I was talking about the Vikings and how the Vikings were going to regress because they won all those one-score games? The Raiders are going to progress this year because they lost all those one-score games, and I think Jimmy G, who is a winner, who nobody likes, will help them get that done. Russell Wilson wasn't bad, had that real bad fumble. He wasn't great either, but let me tell you what I've noticed about Russell Wilson. 5 yards a completion is not going to get it done in today's NFL. And what I'm noticing about Russell Wilson, and I think as you look at his numbers, and the stats are not bad, right? But when you do a little bit of a deeper dive on Russell Wilson, like through the height of his career, he was really a 7-8 yards of completion guy. Now he's down to 5 yards of completion. I would worry about that if I was the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton and that crew out there, because that's like the first sign of regression. So listen, the book is still open on Wilson for this season, but he doesn't drive the football down the field like he used to in the prime of his career, and that could be problematic for Russell Wilson and that Denver Bronco offense. Finally, before we get up out of here, remember telling y'all that Tyreek Hill was the most dangerous player in the NFL. And if I had Tyreek, like if you look at your fantasy lineups, if I see Tyreek Hill on my opponent's roster, I know I'm going to have a long Sunday. It was the first quarter yesterday. I text Blaze, I think Tyreek going for 2-something. And sure enough, that son of a gun went for 2-something. And when him and Tua get together and they playing pitch and catch like that, that Dolphin offense is explosive. They can get into those kind of games. Now, they can't stop nobody either. But this Tyreek Hill thing, I don't have him. I don't have Tyreek Hill or Calvin Ridley in fantasy this year. Jesus Christ. What the fuck am I doing? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Look for Tyreek Hill to continue to get it done. Now, I'm going to get ready to hop up out of here. You know what I'm saying? NFL, no cap for week 1. Your boy Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Everything over here is free. Sign up Underdog Fantasy, and then I'm giving you a deposit match with that right there. Don't forget the executive newsletter. Just everything down in the description section is the way you support your boy. Holla at me. Take care of that. NFL No Cap Week 1 exec out.